Hello, welcome to chapter 9. So we've finished looking at companies now, and we're going to look at other ways which people may choose to carry on their businesses. So first of all, sole traders. So this is just somebody who is in business on their own behalf. Now, even though it's got the word sole in there, it doesn't mean he can't have employees. It just means that the business is owned by one person. So we have one person who owns and runs the business. Therefore, they make all the investments, they provide all the capital, but they also get to keep all of the profits. Now, in the case of a sole trader, the business has no separate legal identity to its owner. So actually, it's the owner who is liable for the debts of the business. It's the owner who owns the assets of the business. There's no concept of limited liability for a sole trader. Now, advantages of this, it's very easy to set a business up. I mean, pretty much you could wake up one morning and decide you're going to run a business. There are certain rules, for instance, particularly in connection with, say, tax, where you have to notify HMRC that you're now carrying on a business. And there's some industries which also have specific regulations, but those are industry specific. You're completely independent, it's your business. And because there is no concept of limited liability here, your business is private to you. You don't need to publish your accounts. You run the business, you make the decisions, and you keep all the profits. The downside, of course, is that concept of unlimited liability. If the business runs up huge debts, they are your debts. It often results, if you're a sole trader, that the business is relying completely on you. So you become very tied in with that business, and you can find that you're working very long hours. There's problems with, if you want to take time off, having to hand the reins over to someone else, or even succession. So if you are the business and you want to retire, is there anything left for you to sell and pass on to someone else? Also, sole traders, not always, but usually, are smaller businesses. So they do face constraints, either to do with the skill of the trader or just to do with access to capital and funding and, trying to grow the business at the speed to which the owner would like to. Now, one way you may choose to develop your business might be to go into partnership. So basically, two sole traders operating a business together. Now, the definition of partnership: the relation which subsists between persons carrying on a business in common with a view of profit. So it's a relationship between persons, that could be individuals or two companies even, carrying on a business in common. That means they're doing something together with a view of profit. There is a profit-making motive. And this all comes from the Partnership Act. Now, the Partnership Act is quite old, 1890, but it's still current. So let's have a look, first of all, at those 4 points we just picked up on. Who are persons? Well, we need at least two, otherwise it would be a sole trader. And person can include companies. Carrying on a business. So business includes, it says, every trade, occupation or profession. It can be a one-off, just a single transaction, but you must be actually doing something, not passively holding property, for instance. And there is case law that sort of tests when does this partnership actually begin to exist. So you don't actually have to be trading. You could be getting ready to trade and your partnership would still be in place at that point. The words in common mean that you are sharing your profits, and that's really meant to distinguish the idea of a partnership from a sole trader who has an employee who he pays a fixed salary. And then the last point, with a view of profit. Now, this is curious because there is actually a case on this where two students who'd set up a business to try and gain some business experience were held not to be in partnership because, although they were trying to get experience, they didn't expect to ever make a profit. Now, it doesn't matter if you don't make a profit, but you have to have the intention there that one day you will. Now, there's a quick question there to have a look at. Read it carefully, pause the recording while you do your answer, and then check it. Okay, so in England and Wales, an unlimited partnership, sometimes they call this also a traditional partnership or an ordinary partnership, has no existence distinct from the partners. That's absolutely true. And the second point there, partners share equally in the venture's profits. That is true. The basic position is that partners will share the profits in equal shares. However, it is possible for the partners to agree to vary that if they want to. Now, how would you set up a partnership? Well, normally you would have a written partnership deed, and this will be a document that sets out exactly how you're going to run your partnership. What happens if someone wants to leave? What's the ratio of contribution of capital? How are you going to share the profits? How are you going to make decisions? Things like that. Now, you don't have to have this written in a document, in a formal deed, but if you don't, it's very hard to prove what both parties intended. So most people would expect you to have that document. Now, if you don't have a document, or if your document is silent on a particular point, there is a piece of legislation, again, the Partnership Act, which will fill in the gap. So as far as you have actually made a specific provision, that will apply. But if you don't have anything covering a particular point, we fall back on the Partnership Act. Now, in addition to the statute, there is what we call fiduciary duties. We've seen these a couple of times already. These are common law duties, and very similar to the director's duties, if I'm honest. It's a duty which the partners owe to each other and to the partnership, to act in good faith, not to exercise a reasonable legal right for an improper motive. So, for instance, to evict a partner from the business unless you've got proper grounds to do so. Not to keep profits from the partnership without the consent of the other partners. So if you're making a secret profit on the side, maybe undercutting the business or making extra sales to customers, then that profit belongs to the partnership unless you've agreed something different. And to avoid conflicts of interest without full disclosure. Again, it's a bit like the promoter rules and the director rules. If you were to go to your business partners and tell them there's a potential conflict of interest and they authorise it, then you would be protected. If not, you're in breach of that fiduciary duty. And if that was the case, you could be liable to account to the partnership for any money that you've made, or to make good any losses that the partnership has suffered. Okay, so what are the provisions in the Partnership Act? Remember, this is what happens if your partnership agreement is silent, but these would not overrule your partnership agreement. So the first one, profits and losses. So the basic position is that these are shared equally, okay, unless you've agreed otherwise. If you don't say anything else, then it's assumed that losses would be shared in the same proportions. A capital deficiency, however, is shared in the ratio of the capital that you originally contributed to the firm. So if you didn't contribute capital equally in the first place, then you won't share the deficiency in the same way. Basic rule, every partner is entitled to take part in managing the firm's business, and decisions are made by a majority. We need a unanimous consent if we want to change the business of the partnership. So, for instance, if I wanted FI to stop being a trading company and to become, say, a publishing company, we'd need we'd need a unanimous consent. If we want to change the partnership agreement, we need the consent of all of the partners. We need unanimous consent before a new partner can join the partnership. Now, again, that's really important because we'll see in the next recording how difficult it is to be in partnership with someone. They can get you into a whole heap of trouble. So you only want to be in partnership with someone that you really trust. So if someone's going to join your partnership with the ability to bind you in a legally binding contract, you want to make sure that you've had a say in how they got there. Also, indemnity. So the firm must indemnify any partner against liabilities incurred in the ordinary and proper conduct of partnership business, or in doing anything necessary for the preservation of the partnership business. So if you have to go to court, for instance, to preserve the partnership's name or to defend the partnership's assets, then you should be able to reclaim that money from the partnership. Also note this thing that it must be done in the ordinary and proper conduct of the business. So in the example I just gave, what if I was the First Intuition Partnership, we were a training company, and then I decided to go off and start incurring liabilities in respect of a publishing business? Then we'd have to debate as to whether that publishing business was close enough to the original training business to be part of the ordinary and proper activities of the partnership. And in that situation, it's probably a little bit borderline. I think it probably would be. Remuneration. No partner is entitled to remuneration for his activities. There is no such thing as a salaried partner. Okay, I know we sometimes see that, well, particularly in the tax paper if you've already done that. But as a legal concept, there is no such thing as a salaried partner. All that salary is a way of dividing up the partner's profit share. Now, a partner is not entitled to interest on his capital, the amount he invested in the business. But if he then makes a further loan to the business, he gets 5% on that further loan to the business. Records and accounts must be kept at the main place of business and open for inspection by all the partners. If you want to get rid of a partner, it's a majority votes. But this is important. It must be used in good faith and for good reason. You can't just vote a partner off because he doesn't agree with you. He has to be doing something that damages the business, something like that, to justify expelling him from the partnership. Finally, dissolution. What if you want to wind the partnership up? Well, as a strict matter of law, a partnership is dissolved whenever any partner retires. Generally, the partnership agreement will put in provisions in place to stop that happening, because it can be quite inconvenient if the rest of the partners want to carry on. When you do dissolve the partnership, the partners will still have authority over the partnership assets until they have actually wound up the business and sold on all the assets. And those assets will be distributed to the partners according to the terms of the partnership agreement. Have a quick look at IQ 23 here. See what you think. Pause the recording while you have a look. Okay, there you go. So, first of all, Ahmed, Bridget and Don may invite Edith to be a partner without Charles's consent. That's not true, is it? Because we know that it needs to be unanimous. The second one, Ahmed, Bridget and Don may not expel Charles from partnership on these grounds. That is true. Although they don't need to act unanimously to get rid of him, they have to act in good faith and for good reason, and this isn't a good reason. And C, Ahmed is not entitled to a salary for acting in the partnership business. That is true, because remember, there is no such thing as a partnership salary as far as the law is concerned. Right, I think we'll take a break there, and then we'll come back and look at the next section in a separate lecture. I'll see you soon.